Picture this. You're walking down a busy street when suddenly someone collapses right in front of you. Your first instinct might be to rush over and help, right? But here's the shocking truth. The more people around you, the less likely you are to actually do anything. And it's not because you're a bad person, it's because of something psychologists call the bystander effect. And it's been quietly shaping human behavior in emergencies for as long as we've lived in groups. This isn't just some abstract theory. Real people have died because crowds of witnesses stood frozen, each person waiting for someone else to act first. But once you understand why this happens, you can break free from this psychological trap and potentially save lives. It all started with a murder that shocked America. March 13th, 1964. Queens, New York. A 28-year-old bartender named Kitty Genovese was walking home from work at 3 in the morning when she was attacked. The original New York Times story claimed that 38 neighbors watched from their windows as she was stabbed to death over the course of 30 minutes, and nobody called the police until it was too late. The story sparked outrage across the country. How could so many people just stand by and do nothing? Were city dwellers really that cold and uncaring? But here's what most people don't know. The original story wasn't entirely accurate. Investigations later revealed that most neighbors couldn't actually see what was happening. Some only heard screams and weren't sure what was going on. At least 2 people did call the police. One neighbor even yelled out his window, causing the attacker to flee temporarily. But even though the facts were exaggerated, the case launched decades of research that revealed something profound about human nature. Psychologists John Darley and Bib Latane started running experiments to understand what they called the bystander effect. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. In one experiment, they had college students sit in separate rooms talking to each other through an intercom system. During the conversation, one person would fake a seizure. When students thought they were the only one who could hear the person in distress, 85% of them rushed to get help. But when they believed 4 other people were also listening, only 31% took action. The more potential helpers present, the less likely any individual was to help. Think about that for a second. The exact same emergency, the exact same person needing help, but just knowing other people were around cut the helping rate by more than half. So why does this happen? It's not that people suddenly become heartless in crowds. There are actually 3 psychological mechanisms at work here, and they're incredibly powerful. First, there's diffusion of responsibility. When you're alone and see someone in trouble, it's crystal clear. You're the only one who can help. The responsibility sits squarely on your shoulders. But add more people to the scene, and suddenly that responsibility gets divided up. Your brain starts thinking, well, there are 10 other people here, surely someone else will handle this. Someone who knows CPR better than me, someone who's braver, someone who's already calling 911. The second factor is pluralistic ignorance. This is where things get really interesting. When something ambiguous happens, maybe someone falls down or starts acting strangely, we naturally look around at other people to figure out if this is actually an emergency. But here's the catch. Everyone else is doing the exact same thing. So you've got a whole crowd of people, all looking at each other, all trying to seem calm and collected, while secretly wondering if they should do something. And since nobody wants to be the person who overreacts to nothing, everyone just stands there. I've experienced this myself. I once saw someone collapse in a coffee shop. For about 5 seconds, everyone just stared. We all looked at each other with this expression of, is this real? Should I do something? It wasn't until one person rushed forward that the spell broke, and suddenly everyone was helping. The third factor is evaluation apprehension. Basically, fear of looking stupid. What if you rush to help someone who just tripped and doesn't want assistance? What if you start CPR on someone who just fainted and will wake up in a second? What if you call 911 for something that turns out to be nothing? In front of all these people? The fear of embarrassment can literally paralyze us. But here's where it gets even more complex. Recent research shows the bystander effect isn't just about these 3 factors. There's also something called recursive thinking happening. You're not just thinking about whether to help, you're thinking about what other people know, what they think you know, what you think they think you know. It's like a mental hall of mirrors that can trap you in inaction. The bystander effect doesn't just happen during violent crimes. It shows up everywhere. Workplace harassment where nobody speaks up, online bullying where hundreds see nasty comments but nobody intervenes. Even climate change could be seen as a massive bystander effect. We all see the problem, but we're waiting for someone else to fix it. Studies have found the effect happens with kids as young as 5 years old. It happens across cultures. It even happens when the stakes are incredibly high. In one study, only 40% of people helped when in groups compared to 70% when alone. So what do you think? Have you ever found yourself frozen in a situation where you knew you should help but didn't? The good news is that understanding the bystander effect is the first step to overcoming it, and there are proven strategies that work. First, if you're ever in trouble and need help from a crowd, don't just yell, "Someone help me!" Instead, pick one specific person. Make eye contact, point directly at them and say, "You in the red shirt, call 911." This breaks through the diffusion of responsibility by assigning a specific task to a specific person. If you're a bystander, the most powerful thing you can do is be the first to act. Research shows that once one person breaks the spell and starts helping, others quickly follow. You don't have to be a hero. Even just saying, "Hey, are you okay?" or "Should I call for help?" can be enough to get things moving. Another technique is to think of yourself as the only person there. Pretend those other bystanders don't exist. Ask yourself, if I was alone right now, what would I do? This mental trick can help cut through the paralysis. Organizations have started teaching bystander intervention training, and it works. They teach people to recognize the signs of someone needing help, to feel confident in their ability to act, and to know what to do. Some programs use the 5 Ds: direct action, distraction, delegation, delay, and document. Direct action means stepping in yourself. Distraction means creating a diversion to defuse the situation. Delegation means getting someone else involved, like security or police. Delay means checking in with the person afterward. Document means recording what's happening if it's safe to do so. The research also shows that certain things make people more likely to help. If you know the victim, you're more likely to act. If the situation is clearly an emergency with no ambiguity, more people help. If you've seen other people helping recently, you're more likely to help. Kindness is contagious. Some places have even passed laws to address this. Good Samaritan laws protect people who try to help in emergencies from being sued if something goes wrong. A few places have gone further with duty to rescue laws that actually make it illegal to not help in certain situations. But beyond laws and training, it really comes down to a personal decision. Every one of us has the power to overcome the bystander effect. It starts with awareness. Now that you know about it, you can recognize when it's happening. When you see someone who might need help and feel that familiar freeze, that urge to look around and see what everyone else is doing, remember what you've learned today. The bystander effect reveals something profound about human nature. We're social creatures, deeply influenced by the people around us. That can work against us, creating these situations where nobody helps, but it can also work for us, because once one person acts with compassion and courage, it gives everyone else permission to do the same. Next time you're in a situation where someone needs help, remember that everyone else is likely feeling the same uncertainty you are. They're all waiting for someone to make the first move. Be that person. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know exactly what to do. You just have to be willing to try. Because here's the truth. The difference between a tragedy and a rescue often comes down to one person deciding to act, one person choosing to push through the discomfort and uncertainty, one person remembering that we're all in this together, and sometimes that means being the first to step forward. The bystander effect is real, it's powerful, and it affects all of us, but it doesn't have to control us. Now you know the psychology behind it. You know the strategies to overcome it. Most importantly, you know that your actions matter, maybe more than you ever realized. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.